Bas, welcome to the Group X podcast, mate. It is so good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for the invitation.
No, mate, it's nice. Whenever I've asked and reached out to anybody and they've said yes, mate, I'm honoured and privileged and can't wait to get to know you over the next hour or so. So
Nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice. Looking forward to this.
Let's kick it off right from the beginning there, man. How did you get into the fitness industry? Where does your journey start?
I've always been active as a young child. My dad was a physical education teacher. We were always active. I've grown up in a family of 5. We were with 5 kids. And because of my dad's physical education teacher background, he knew how good exercise is for people in general, but especially for kids. So my whole family has always been active, always cycling bikes because I'm from Holland, so we all ride bikes everywhere basically.
Yep.
I started judo from a very early age, since I was 4, and I've always been training like almost on a daily basis, 6-7 times a week.
Wow.
Since the age of maybe 6.
Yep.
Until I was 20, I think.
Yep.
19, 20.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've always been training, and everything I did in the fitness in fitness was to benefit my judo. So I was doing strength training from the age of 15, sort of cardio training, conditioning training, circuit training, all in the gym. And but then I was at a point when I was 18 where I didn't progress in my judo so much anymore. I don't want to say talented, but I was in the selection from an early age.
Yes.
And I was technical, really good, but I wasn't necessarily really strong. I was always the shortest and quite skinny. And I started to lose a lot because all of my peers became like much stronger. So strength took a bigger part. And yes. I remember that I had a conversation with my coach back then, and he said, "Yeah, you have potential to become real good, but often your style of judokas become good at a later stage in life when yes. technique comes over." And I just didn't know if I wanted to invest all that time. It felt a little bit pointless. And he basically said, "We're starting with this new stupid cycle program to see if we can attract a different crowd to our gym. Maybe you should start teaching it." And then I reached out to his wife, who was leading the group fitness department, and I said, "Hey, I'm very new to this, but I would love to get a shot to see if I can do a training and then I've been teaching since since I was 18."
Wow! So this is all you started this all back in Holland?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What
sorry, you go.
I was going to say, what was the cycle program called?
RPM.
I thought it might have been a freestyle one.
No, it was RPM.
No, that's weird.
Yeah. And what I remember is I felt really, I don't know, insecure during that module training. But from that first class, I noticed something that I don't know, I just got hooked into group fitness. For the first time, I wasn't training for myself to get better or stronger or win from my opponent or whatever. I was helping others in very small ways and sometimes in very big ways. But my working out, my movement helped others, and I really liked that part of group fitness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when was this? Can you take us back? What year were we talking about?
I don't know. I was 18, so it must have been 2003, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
2003. So that's almost 20 years in this industry now.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that now. Yeah.
I was thinking about that the other day too. I started in 2003, and it was wow. That's wow. That means the 1st of July this year.
It was RPM 17
years ago. RPM
17.
17. Yeah. Wow.
20 years, eh?
We're getting the music was so different back then, wasn't it? And that's just not from what's being chosen. That's just the music in general.
Yeah.
It's so different back in those days.
Yeah.
Wow, I like hearing that. So your module training was in Holland?
Yeah, in Breda, a city in Brabant, in the Netherlands, with Sandra Kleine, a presenter in the Netherlands, a trainer in the Netherlands, who also went to New Zealand for Pump. And I remember it we did the hongi, the Maori greeting.
Yes.
I remember it vividly. I remember also we went to Turkey with the family, sort of for a family vacation for maybe 1.5 weeks, and I remember that it took me that 1.5 week, or almost 2 weeks, to learn that release. It was the
Yeah.
first time I've ever done something, and it just took me so long to learn all these tracks. Now I do it quickly, but then it took me 2 weeks to learn a class.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What were can you remember the tracks that you got for your module training?
Yeah, I remember that it was track 4, and I don't know the title anymore, but it was Afro drums or something, or
Safari Duo?
drums. Safari Duo, yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
Do you know all those tracks? Do you know?
Oh, I learnt on 23 for RPM 23. RPM was my first program, but I have all the releases back to RPM 1. So, yeah. So,
And are you the type of person that remembers, like, if I say RPM 20 track 2, would you?
oh, I'd need to look at it, but as soon as I heard the music, I'd know the choreography.
Oh wow,
That's the scary thing about my brain. For some reason,
I wish my
when
brain
it
was
comes to
like
that, it sinks in. I'll listen to the music, and all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, sweet, I know where we've got to go. I know what we've got to do.
so good. As an instructor, that's so good. Like, that's an essential life skill. Yeah.
It's funny talking to some friends of mine. They're like, Tony, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't know whether it's photographic memory or what. I can't do it in anything else in life.
Okay. Okay. So it's not very practical in the rest of your life. Yeah.
When it comes to choreography for exercise, it's like, oh yeah, I remember what that is. It's
Yeah.
okay, yeah, roll.
Wow. Yeah.
No, that Safri Duo, knock on wood.
Yes, that's the one. Yes.
Yeah.
It took me 2 weeks to learn that track,
Yeah.
and that was my
Hard
first
track
class.
too.
Sorry,
A very, very hard track as well.
I don't remember that. I have no
Yeah.
clue. Yeah. No, it's all a blur. But like, yeah, I remember that track. I remember the group. I remember where it was. Yeah, I was 18. I was still like studying and working really hard. Like, I've always worked really hard. But that was just, and then I got stuck into group fitness, and I started with that RPM class. And before I knew it, I was teaching 7 classes a week in that gym where I grew up as a kid.
Wow.
Practicing judo.
That's fantastic. So
Yeah.
seven RPM classes a week.
Oh no, I did. Body Step was my second program.
Yeah.
I did quite a few things before I really found what I really like.
Yeah.
I did Body Step, Body Attack. I taught Body Pump. I think those were the main ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So back on the module training for RPM,
yeah.
having not come from a pre-choreographed or exercise background where you're teaching to that, how did you find that module training? Was it easy to understand what the concept of here's a booklet here, you need to go and
Yeah.
replicate what we're doing here?
I think the trainers that I've had for my module trainings before I became a trainer myself always have been really good. All very different, but really good. And I also think you become a good instructor through practicing. I believe that the module training has a really good foundation, but all these things that you hear during the module training, it starts to land while you're teaching, and some of these land after 2 months and others after a year or something. It's just allowing, and for new instructors, I think it's allowing and trusting that will happen. Absorbing everything you can from that module training, using it as a foundation to get to your first class, but knowing that you will become better if you just practice. And giving yourself time to do that.
Excellent. How was your first class? How was the first class you ever taught?
Yeah, I was only 18, and it was like I never wore cycle gear, so I was still in puberty, I guess. So I don't know much about it besides that I thought it was daunting. It was scary because like all of a sudden I was teaching to adults, sometimes 3 times my age. I don't know. I just thought that I finally found something that I could do for others, that I could help others with. That was sort of the memory that always stuck with me. I wasn't necessarily great at it. I just wanted to be really good at it. So I invested a lot of time. I don't think I have great, well, I don't know. I don't want to speak about talent, but I wasn't great. I just had enough confidence and just enough balls to do it.
Do it, yeah.
How was that for you? Do you remember your first class?
I only passed to shadow, so I was only allowed to shadow with somebody else up on stage, the way that they did it back here. And it was release 23 for RPM, and my track was Faster, Harder, Scooter.
Oh yeah, check
And I
5
was
or 3.
track 5, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Shannon Cleary was my my mentee,
Okay.
mentor. And I was only allowed to do that one track, and it was probably about 10 weeks before I was allowed to move off that track to something.
Okay.
She really enforced it in me to make sure I had that nailed and
It's
done
good
really
to have a
well.
good mentor.
Mate, I am so appreciative of the time that Shannon put into me and helped me through that experience, because I'd come from corporate. I'd come from working for a telecommunications company before I jumped into the fitness industry. And all of that was foreign to me. Like, I'd been into classes and participated, but being up there in that spotlight was so
Yeah.
foreign to me. And the time and effort that Shannon put into helping me through that, that I could never I can never teach that track ever again, because it has scary memories
Yeah.
of, oh no, no more, I
Yeah.
can't do it
And
again.
you hear the feedback
Yes.
back in your head again. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Like I'm there, like from 20 years ago. I remember just sitting there and Shannon saying, "No, do this. No,
Yeah.
we've got to do this." But I'm so appreciative that she took the time and I
Yeah.
went through that and had
Yeah.
that experience, because
She
it
invested a
earned
lot
me,
of time in that.
man,
Yeah.
so much so. She was also the first group fitness manager that gave me a class on the timetable, because she had trained me up and knew, it was a Thursday night. It's probably the worst time slot in class
Mm.
on the timetable,
Yeah.
but we needed somebody. And she's like, "Tone, I'm stuck. I don't have anyone else. Can you?" And
Yeah.
I was over the moon. Oh, yes, please, let's go.
Yeah.
I want to get in there and do it. And it was probably a train wreck. I say it was probably the worst class that those participants
Yeah.
had ever had, and the worst class I'd ever done.
Yeah.
You'd want to hope that
Yeah.
was from a starting point. But yeah, it was just to have that person to help and run through, and guidance. Yeah. But that I just remember walking in and teaching that first class by myself. I had a girl turn around and say, "Oh, are you teaching?" I said, "Yeah." And so she got up and walked out.
Yeah. We all
I
have
was like,
these.
"Oh, yeah,
No
yeah,
one
I understand that."
Yeah.
But I think the sigh of relief, or um, I suppose the acknowledgement that what I got up and did was so foreign to me, but I accomplished it.
Yeah.
I felt a sense of accomplishment at the end of that class, even though it probably wasn't the best.
Yeah.
It was still, this is where I start.
Yeah,
Things
exactly.
are only going to get better from here as I progress.
And that's all it needs, right? It needs somebody who sees potential in you, allowing or giving you the opportunity. And then after that opportunity, often that doesn't go as planned, like it's not as, but then it can go in two directions. Like you take the time and you put in the work to get better, or you just leave it where it is and it stays as it is, and it doesn't like evolve from that opportunity.
This is the Group X podcast.
How did things evolve for you? You taught your first class, it was going great. When did you go on to the next program? So when did you go on to STEP as your next program?
That was all in that gym, and I don't think they're listening, because it's a smaller gym in the Netherlands. Mahorkan is the name of the gym. I owe them so much. Like that's where I grew up. Like that's where I grew up, and I've been there on a daily basis from my 4th birthday till I was 20 or so. Oh no, because I stayed with them for quite a while when I was teaching as well, until I was maybe like 25 or something.
Yep.
So a good 20 years I've spent in that gym, and a lot of opportunities came from there. The group fitness manager, who was also the owner of the gym, together with her husband, who was my judo coach. I'll tell you the whole family dynamics in the next 5 minutes. No, she was and she just gave me, she saw potential in me, and she saw that I was willing to learn and willing to invest. So so I started when there was only body pump and RPM on the schedule, and Les Mills was just growing in Holland. So we were one of the first clubs. And then the second program came in, or the third program, and they put me forward to go on a module training for that. And I think that was STEP. I think I was that was STEP, and then Attack. So yeah, basically she saw potential and gave me these opportunities to develop within that club.
That's brilliant. How was STEP? Because I've told this story before on here as well. I've tripped over the step before the class even started, twisted my ankle, and never went back. So, how was teaching STEP for you? How did you?
I liked it. I'm not into that program anymore, and I wouldn't do it for my own training. But I've done it. I've taught it for, and that's actually the first program that I became a trainer on.
Wow.
I did audition in the for the Dutch team for Body Step. I knew they were looking for a guy. Yeah, it was sort of like an educated move, but or a conscious move. Like, how do I
Yes.
say that? Like a
Conscious
conscious
move.
move.
Yeah.
Calculated
Yes.
sound negative because I like the
Yeah.
program. I like the program, so I would never apply for something if I didn't like it. I really liked the program back
Yep.
then. I was evolving. I was slowly getting better at it. Yeah, I like
Yep.
step.
Awesome.
Um, but I don't do
Yeah.
it anymore.
Yeah. So which programs did you say you've got under your belt? You said you've had RPM, step, attack.
RPM, step, attack, pump. I think I went to a combat module
Yep.
as well. So and
Yeah,
grit.
it'd be almost a question to ask you, which programs aren't you practicing?
Yeah, at the dance programs. The dance programs and balance. Am I missing something? Yeah, I've never done a balance module. Yeah,
So Born to Move?
and yeah, Born to Move. That's I've been involved with Born to Move from the
Brilliant. Actually,
Yeah,
now
yeah,
that
I
I
love
think
that.
of it, that's where you and I first met when in Canberra, when I was working for Les Mills Asia Pacific head office.
beginning. Then I was 12. That feels like one of the first gigs I did for Les Mills International.
Yeah.
We came with Anna and
Yes.
Sarah and Janine.
I think I picked you guys up from the airport and dropped you either to the office or to the hotel. where you were staying.
In that period, I've traveled so much. I've seen so many countries and met so many amazing people. But for some reason, I haven't documented it. I looking back at it now, I wish that I was more into making videos
Yeah.
back then. Because I have it's almost like a
Yep.
blur. So much
Yep.
happened. I think we listed the countries like Anna and I, because we sometimes reminisce about
Yeah.
that time. And we have cool stories about it. And the moment we started, we went kangaroo watching. Were you there as
No.
well? Michelle,
Yeah,
I think her
Michelle
name was.
Dean.
Michelle was the training
Yes.
manager. She took us out on a road trip after the
Yep.
training. I remember also going to an Italian, and the waiter had a really high pitched voice, and we were just so tired from training, and like we just cracked up every time when he took us our order. I have these moments that come back, but I wish I documented that. I've written it
Yeah.
down or something. So you picked
Yeah,
us up.
but that's
Like,
right. I'm not offended at all.
sure, like
It's okay. I'm not a very memorable person, so I wouldn't expect.
Oh no, it has nothing to do with that. It's all with the sheer amount of
No,
stuff
I understand.
and impressions.
Yeah.
Like I never left Holland much, and then all of a sudden in a
And it
year
was-
I was traveling to Dubai and Australia and the US and all around Europe. It was an overwhelming and beautiful
Yeah.
experience, but so many impressions. Like, and that's why I wish that I've written it down, because then I would have remembered
Yeah.
more of those things.
On that, how
Yeah.
did the opportunity come up for you to leave Holland and I suppose move from being an instructor into working for Les Mills International? How did that all come about?
So I was an instructor, and after, I think it was 2007, that for some reason that year, so I've been teaching for 5 years at Mahorgan, at the club in the Netherlands, and I always had that drive. I still have to evolve and learn, and I'm curious about everything, and I was looking for a way to upskill. And I knew I knew that if I wanted to take that step, I needed to apply for a national trainer role. So every country in the world, or every region in the world, has a national trainer team. There's one in Australia, or LMAP, so that's Asia Pacific. There's one in the Netherlands. There's one in France. And these trainers educate the instructors. And you need to apply, do audition to become part of that team. So I applied for the first year. I was rejected. I was too young. I think I don't know how old I was. I definitely felt that I was too young. I think I was 17 when I started teaching. So I must have been 21 or 22 when I applied. Probably 21. Second year, I applied for STEP. I think I applied for the first year at Step as well. Then I became a national trainer, and yeah, that was the thing for me to really step up my game. Like all of a sudden I had all these people I looked up to, and they were willing to help me and guide me, and basically what you had in your club, where somebody really took their time to upskill you and share their knowledge with you. That for me really happened in the Dutch team, and I'm so grateful for so many people in that team. And then I remember that Grit was launched. I don't know I do know the year. That was 2012.
Yeah. That was the year I started at Les Mills, and that was the first thing we did. My first day, that afternoon, we went and did a grit class.
Oh, wow. Good start of the day.
Throw you in the deep end.
And I remember that Corey and Les Mills Jr. came to Holland to take the Dutch team, the Dutch trainers who were selected for that program through the boot camp is what you call it. Yep. And I remember that was the first program that really that I didn't have to, it just set in my nature. It was training how I used to train when I practiced judo, like short, intense bursts. It was really, it felt really authentic to me. And I think I did a good job there. So I was invited to come and film Grit Strength, or Grit Release 4, but then I ended up going at 5. And something really unique happened there. When you go to filming, you always have a program coach, somebody who helps you with your coaching and helps you through that week. And my program coach was Jackie Mills. Wow. Yeah, she's usually never a program coach. It's other people doing that type of work. But it was a new program, and I think the program coach who would be the program coach couldn't do it. So she said, it's just Bas, Kirsty, and Les. It happens. It always happens after the iconic programs filming. It was 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later. I'll just do it. And because I was the only one being coached, I spent a lot of time with her. So she got to see who I was and what I stood for and my work ethic. And then I had also done the bootcamp for Born to Move. So at the end of the week, after filming, I was asked to come to her desk. Janine, her sister, who is running Born to Move. Yeah, you've met Janine, sorry. And Maureen Baker were there. And she basically said like, hey, we've seen you at a couple of instances now. I've worked with you this week. I would love to give the opportunity to become, I think it's called International Master Trainer or whatever, but for Grit and Born to Move and roll out these programs or help roll out these programs in the world. And of course I said yes to that. Like, I didn't expect it or anything. It's just, I didn't even wish it. It was just something that happened.
Yeah. So the boot camps, were the boot camps in Holland, or were they over in New Zealand?
The boot camps that I did for upskilling myself were taught. I did the boot camp of Born to Move in the States. Yep. Trainers from America and Europe traveled to Houston, I think.
Wow. You have done a lot of travel then.
And yeah. But the Grit Bootcamp was Les and Corey coming to the Netherlands, and that's what I then did in other countries. So my first thing that I did for Les Mills International was a Grit Bootcamp in Russia.
Wow.
Yeah, I went to Moscow, which was a really cool experience. Also, I was very new to this. I had, like I said, I hadn't traveled much before that stuff happened. And then we had a boot camp in Dubai, and then we had another boot camp. We had 2 boot camps in the States. So, and then in Australia.
Are you multilingual? Yeah. So, as in, you said you've been to Russia.
No, this is a crazy story. This is also a real insecurity of mine. That's what I told you before this podcast started. It's I've never been able to speak English until I was like 23, 24.
Your English is awesome.
No, I don't think it is. And I feel really self-conscious when I have to speak English, because it feels like I can articulate myself at sort of 100% in Dutch, but I always feel like I'm at 80% in English. So when I want to explain something in detail and it's more nuanced, like I struggle finding the words.
Let me tell you, from an Aussie who's only ever spoken English in my life, it is very easy to understand you and what you're saying.
Thank you, because it's very basic.
But my point being is that you're getting the message across, and it's not just a basic message. You know, where I know I'm understanding it, and I know the listeners will as well. You're being able to articulate what it is, and I think that's huge. Not from English being a second language, but how did you go when you were in Russia? How did you go when you in Dubai?
Back then, I remember that I did a TRX, a first international TRX training, just as an instructor, and I had to, and it was a boot camp as well, because I did some stuff with TRX as well, and so all of a sudden I had to present something in English, and I just completely blocked. I had two instances where that happened. One was in a CX Works boot camp. Oh, I also did CX Works. Les Mills Core. One in front of Maureen Baker. I don't know if you know her, probably. Yep. Yeah. So when I was offered that job as an international master trainer, I don't think they discussed it with them three. So Maureen Baker was like, "What? You're giving this guy?" Because she had just seen me completely blank out during one of her trainings. So I went to London. I had to present something, and I just can't do it. I just can't speak English. Like, I could understand it and very basic. Like, I could order some food in a restaurant, but I just could. So from that moment, I did everything that I could do in English. I did in English. I changed my phone settings from Dutch to English. I disabled the subtitles when I was watching movies. I had a friend that I spoke to. I said, I want to improve on English. Can we text in English on a regular basis? So everything that I could do it, and then it progressed. But I still feel it's like 80%, and it's difficult.
So definitely, I know what I'd be like going to a foreign country. You've said Russia and Dubai, and you were teaching people in English, which is not your first language, let alone not their first language either.
No, and that was my savings. Like,
wow.
That saved me probably, because the Russians also didn't speak English very well. So,
but you managed to understand each other. That's the main thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it was a lot. But by that time, when I came to New Zealand, I was sort of like, I was okay speaking English, because I did that filming as well, and so all that international stuff happened after that filming. So I prepared really well for filming. But yeah, in my I think I was 26 or 27 when I went to New Zealand for the first time. But I went to that TRX bootcamp when I was 23. So over those 4 years, I think I improved. But up to the point of 23, like very, very basic things, like
but let's. I don't mean any disrespect to our industry when I say this, but it's group exercise. Yep, that's basic cues that you can give for people to get to a position.
But it's still something that is really, I don't know, like I worry about it a lot. That's why my process for filming is also quite different from other presenters that I know and that I work with closely. I need to write it out. I need to know that what I want to say is actually correct, that I get my points across, and I need to learn that script before quite intensively in order for me to let it go. I need to get to a point where I can almost dream it, and then I can let it go. Yeah,
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that's what you do and how you go through that process, because it's opening yourself up, and I do appreciate the fact that you've been able to share that with us. Thank you very much.
This is the Group X podcast.
If you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a few questions about masterclass filming. Yep, and the process that you go through leading up. You sort of alluded to it a little bit there with the language and writing your scripts, that kind of stuff. Is there anything else that you do with regards to the lead up, that whether it's your own fitness stuff that you work on that's outside of the programs, or is it just the program stuff you do? If you can give us a little bit of insight into that.
I always try. So like a good month before filming starts, I'm not teaching on a regular basis. I have a couple of classes in the gym now, but I don't teach all programs on a regular basis. This is mainly a visa thing, like, because I'm allowed to work for Les Mills International, but Les Mills New Zealand is a different company. I can't officially have my own classes. But so I always make sure that if I know that I'm presenting grit, I'm ramping up grit. So I always do 2 classes a week, but I scale that to 3 or maybe 4. So leading up to that, I'll make sure, and preferably with the release that we're actually filming. So I really get that release in my body. I know where the easy parts are. It's grit, so it's never easy. But that are easier for me. I know the parts where I struggle with. So that's I always try to get that baseline fitness, and I know that my best presentations always have been when I feel fit. In the past, there also has been moments where I didn't feel fit because I was working really hard in Japan. I lived in Japan for a while. So, but I think that's almost a prerequisite for me to know that I'm being able to do a good job. Fitness is definitely one of them. I always like to get the release early. That's not always possible due to our creative process. But if I can, I like to get the release early, do them a couple of times, get a couple of sessions under my belt before I start thinking of what I want to get across. I really value the opinion of the creators. What are you trying to achieve with this workout? What were your thought process of? So I always listen to them very carefully, whether it's Aaron in grit or Glenn in sprint or those as an example. And then I just start writing down stuff that I think I should be saying. And over the course of 2 to 3 days, I finalize that script. I make sure that I always learn that script really well, and I only do this for filming classes, obviously, and bigger presentations. And then in my ideal world, there's always 2 days after I know my script 100%. After that, there's 2 more days for me to just teach it. And at that point, it doesn't matter anymore if I say that's a wide door or that door is wide or wide door. It doesn't matter because I know what I want to get across. And that's where I feel that I can relax and be in the moment. But for me, those days leading up are always quite stressful because it's also a little bit of an insecurity because of the language barrier. But I feel I need to know that what I'm saying makes sense. Yeah. So that's a little bit my process.
I like that because I think instructors can learn from that. Yeah, instructors here in Australia, and I remember seeing it so many times back when I was teaching in North Sydney, that we would go to a quarterly workshop on the weekend, and it'd be all day Saturday, all day Sunday, or whatever it was. And then come Monday morning, first class on the timetable, people were trying to release what they just learned the day or the day before. Now, you're knowing that you guys have a lead-up period of 3-4 weeks to understand it, to learn it, to get it right. And yes, you're practicing, you're teaching it in classes. I still think instructors here in Australia need to give themselves a bit more time. You know, I believe, and it may have changed. It may have changed since I taught. I haven't taught now in 5 years, so it's different, or it was different back then. But I think that understanding it, learning it, sitting down, listening to the music, making it go through your head, as you're saying, writing down your script, making sure that everything lands so that when you get out there to teach, that it's not a train wreck, not Tony's first class. You know, it's an experience that is on par or as close to what you guys have delivered on that release that we've been able to see, or what the Australian presenter team has been able to deliver on that weekend, so that even I know the guys here, the trainer team here, you know, as you're saying, you get your release 3 or 4 weeks before. Make it set in. Give it that time to actually sit with you, so you know what you're trying to get across to the members at the end of the day. You know, that's I think is vital.
I give the example often, like if you're a good presenter or instructor, if you have experience and you're good at what you do, you're able to teach you're able to teach a good class with minimum preparation. You just fall back on the automatic pilot, and if you're good at what you do, then that class is often good enough. But I think if you take the approach, okay, my base level is good enough, but I have an hour to invest and make that good enough just slightly better. I'm thinking of the introduction, or I'm thinking of how I'm trying to make people feel during class, or I'm gonna say something that might be more motivating. You just went from good enough to slightly better than good enough. And I think there's always a balance between how much time can you invest, what is realistic. Like I know that a video of our masterclasses is being seen by a lot of instructors, so that comes with a different pressure for me than my Friday morning class at 7 o'clock, where people just want to have a good workout. So it's always like a balance between how much time will I invest, or can I invest, and what is sensible, you know? But I often think if people prepare, their stuff just gets better. Even though they're great presenters, just without prep work, it just gets better.
We mentioned it earlier when we were chatting off air before about okay, good, and great. You know, 3 different levels. They can get that stuff from the Saturday, Sunday, and get in there on a Monday and be okay. Yes, they're safe enough to get a workout through for their participants, but if they gave it a little bit longer, it would go from okay to good. So you know what, Tony, that was great. That release was absolutely fantastic because I've let it sit. I've learnt it. I've memorized it. I've made sure it's all there.
All about it. Yeah.
Because as we know, the more you do it, the better it's going to be anyway. But making sure that the first time you deliver is better than just okay or good. Let's make it so it's great the first time. So members and participants want to come back, and we're ticking all those boxes to make sure that they're loving everything.
Yeah, but at the same time, while totally agreeing with that, I also recognize that if you're teaching 7 classes a week, you can't do that for all 7 classes, and you can't. Well, if you have a full-time job and you're teaching even 2 or 3 classes, and you have a family life, it needs to be a balance between all those things in your life. But yes, if people prepare. And if people invest more, it often gets better. Yeah.
Is there anything special you do 5 minutes or 10 minutes before filming? Is there anything that you do that no one else does? You have your own time and you're like, right, this is how I get in the zone.
What do I do before filming? I like to go through that script again. I get really nervous. I get really cold hands. So I like to be amongst people without shaking their hands, because if I shake their hands, we're being told by a dead person. So I like to mingle, but before I mingle, I always like to go through my script just one more time. It's just reassurance, I think, because 9 out of 10 times I know that I know it. It's just going through it one more time, getting in the zone. Then I like to mingle. That's why I like presentations where we have an audience. I like the best. That's where I think I'm best. Do I have any quirky things that I do? I always brush my teeth before I teach. It's really weird. I think it has to do with, like, in the programs that I teach, we often have floor coaching, which is like, it's kind of nice if you're going to have somebody with bad breath floor coaching you. So I always brush my teeth. So people at the office make fun of me because they see me running to the toilet with my toothbrush.
That to me is great, though. That shows that you care. When you care about what you're doing, you care about the people you're going to be floor coaching to. It's taking pride in what you do. I think that's an awesome thing. I think it's obviously you're nervous. Before getting on. I don't think anyone could walk into masterclass filming and not be nervous. If they aren't nervous, I'd then be asking, hang on a second, are you doing the right thing here? Are you really in the right space? You know, I think it's the nerves, it's the anticipation of, wow, this don't screw this up, Tony. This is going to be good, you know. Doing that. So is the filming process easy? Now, when I say easy, I don't mean we just teach a class and away we go. You know, what happens if you screw something up? What happens if you make a mistake?
For me, is the filming process easy? For me, it's not. It's often stressful, and that's mainly because I'm internally fighting with that language barrier. I get in a room with the first class. I'm getting into a room with Ben and Aaron, and we're just going through a choreography. But while we're going through choreography, they are dropping these beautiful lines. We're punching through the roof, and I haven't even thought of like saying anything like that. And everything they say sounds so beautifully, and I'm just here. Wide door. Filming process for me is not easy. For me, it really changes from team to team. There's, I always like the team environment very much. So if there's a good, strong connection, which in most cases there is. That really helps me. And then on filming day, so I'm also working in the production. So I'm seeing more of the behind the scenes now.
Great.
This as well. We try to film our classes as one takes, because we're filming 5 classes a day, or 6 sometimes. Production wise, it's a really big process. Like, our production value is very high, and our production systems are fully in place. So we just don't have a lot of time for sprint. I think for the next filming, an hour is scheduled. That means including introduction, getting the audience in their position. So there's not a lot of leadway. If something goes wrong in filming, it's usually up to the technical supervisor. He has a different name. Technical advisor, like Bryce Hastings or Rob, or Andrew, who does now a lot since Bryce is in the US. If it's a mistake, if one of our technique is really bad or unsafe, it should have been flagged in rehearsal week. But sometimes stuff happens on the day, like I don't know, like you're more tired than you want to be or whatever. They stop us. So if that happens, we go back to an earlier start in that track, or we redo that track. Those are the main things that stop our class. It's technical issues or production technical issues. If a camera stops or a microphone falls off, that kind of stuff happens, but not too often. The last few sprint releases, I don't think we stopped at all. Yeah,
I like you. I asked that question as a bit of a silly question, but it gives listeners an understanding that sometimes things do go wrong. Yeah. It's never going to be a perfect roll from hey, yep, action, right through to the end of that's brilliant. Sometimes it will be, but sometimes the wheels fall off somewhere along the way. It's like no, stop. We need to do it again. I remember in my journey of being an instructor, sometimes the sound system will cut out halfway through. Or the fire alarm goes off in the building. They're things that you need to just adapt. I mean, the worst the worst experience or worst memory I have was teaching in a club where there was no sound system. So all I had was my mobile phone. Now I could hear the music, but the class couldn't. They heard me screaming, and the people in the front row could hear the music from my phone. But we still managed to do the class out because I wanted to give them an experience. And that's not kudos to me going, Tony, well done. It's more, sometimes shit happens.
Stuff happens.
Sometimes it can turn.
And Tony, those are the classes. How many classes have you taught in your life?
Yeah.
But that's the one you remember.
Yeah.
And I think it's how you deal with those situations. When it comes to masterclass filming, like, this is an example product that goes to so many instructors. It's never perfect. We can't get it perfect, but we're striving to get it close to perfect. So if an introduction goes wrong, we stop. We do it again. But if introduction goes wrong in your normal class, have fun with it. Like, joke about it. Try it again. It doesn't have to be perfect at all. People want to see real people.
That's how they can.
And
that's how.
So I would see it as two different things. We're aiming for perfection in masterclass, but in my real classes, it's not perfect, and I don't even like it to be. I think.
No. Can you remember the first filming you did?
Yeah, it was Grit Strength, Grit Strength, 2013.
Was the experience leading up to that the same as the experience leading up to the last one you did? Or were there more nerves in the first one compared to?
No, for me, and that's the thing that I spoke about earlier today. It's like, for me, it never gets easier, I think.
I really like hearing that. I know that may sound silly to say, but it shows your authenticity. That's not a word I like using that often because I think it's overused. But I really appreciate hearing that from you, because it shows that you haven't let it get to your head. You're still in there. You're doing your job. You love what you do. You're nervous about it. You have that anticipation, but the experience is the same going through. I will say, and honestly, I believe this, that your language barrier that you carry, I think will only get better and get easier as you get older, the more you do?
I don't know. I've done it for 20 years. Oh no, well, not 20 years but like almost 10 years now internationally. And it hasn't like the nerves are still the same. The only difference is that I'm more accepting of it now. I know that this is just part of my process. The days leading up are not the most fun days for me because I have a lot of self-doubt, and while I was fighting that a few years ago, I know it's part of me now, and I ask my wife, just please let me go through this. I'm happy at the end of it. I just need to go through it. So I've learned to accept it more instead of fighting it. I think that's the difference from 10 years ago. But it's still the same nerves, and I doubt will people like it. Will I be as good as the other presenters? That's still on my mind. I just know that that's just part of me, I guess.
This is the Group X podcast.
Yeah.
So which programs are you presenting for at the moment? Run us through those.
So I'm an ambassador for Grit. So I'm involved with Grit. I'm involved with Sprint. I'm involved with Born to Move and the Trip. And I've been working on a new program that we've launched this. Oh well, we're trialing. We've launched the trial in the Auckland City Gym this week actually. We did some trials last year, and that was really positive. So we have an official trial now, and that program it's just a work name. It's called Flow State, but that's not the name of the program. If it ever becomes a program,
no, that's all right. They've heard it here that something's coming. That's all we can share. Then I'm happy to leave that.
Yeah, I've shared a little bit on it's just I think legally we can't. So we're looking at other names, and it's just a working title for that one
Brilliant.
gym.
That's nice. Nice to hear that there's new stuff on the horizon. I think that's
a lot.
Yeah, really good to hear that there's stuff coming through. I think that's the industry needs more. To attract a different crowd or to help the current crowd that we have with their
and to keep it current and to keep it fresh. Have you done strength development already?
Sorry, say that again.
Have you done strength development already?
What do you mean when you say that?
It's one of the new programs.
No.
I think it's being launched. It might be too early to be in gyms. Actually, I don't think it's in gyms. It's a strength development. It's a strength development program called Strength Development. It's a 45-minute program where you use the bar and you load it up way heavier, and you actually go through hypertrophy and strength phases. It's a 12 class bundle, basically. And you're taken through a strength progression.
Wow. No, I hadn't heard of that here as yet. Hopefully it's coming to Australia soon. That would be... I
think they're rolling it out. I think the trials are now, or the trials finished. The feedback has been super great here in New Zealand. That's sort of the first program that is... ready for the world now.
Stay tuned, guys. There will be something coming out soon with that one. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. So the roles, the ambassador role, can you give me a little bit more detail around what that ambassador role entails? What, as for those that are listening, what does an ambassador do? What is your role?
So there are a couple of ambassadors for Les Mills International, and how would I describe this role? It's a role...
You say that you are the face of that program?
Nah, a familiar face within that program.
Yeah.
Maybe that's... and some are the face. So Aaron is an ambassador, but I would also call Aaron Moll the face of Grit.
Yes.
That's depend more... if an ambassador is the face of a program, mainly depends on their other roles within the business. Erin is a creative for Les Mills International, and that's why she plays a big part in Grit. So you're, as an ambassador, you're a familiar face within the program. You're doing filmings on a regular basis, not necessarily all of them. So I'm not in all grits. I might be in 2 a year or something. I'm not in all sprints. I might be in 2 a year. And you're helping other trainer teams with bigger presentations. You present on bigger events. Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
what it is.
Cool. That's nice
Yeah,
to know. That's nice to
and you help promote the
Yes.
brand, and you help promote the
Yeah.
program.
Yeah. Brilliant. And
Yeah.
you said you're ambassador for
Grit, Sprint, The Trip, Born to Move, Tone every
Yep.
now and then.
Yep. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Cool. That's nice
Yeah.
to hear and nice
Yeah.
to understand as well that
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
role that is there that is doing that to help promote
Yeah.
those programs and get those programs out to everyone as well.
Yeah.
Which was
Yeah.
great when you last year when you came over for Les Mills Live here in Melbourne as well.
loved
That
it.
was an amazing event. I think the Aussie market
I agree.
were really we'd missed out, and not for any other reason apart from lockdown, that kind of thing. And to have the energy in that room again was just, I think anyone listening that went just realizes that and can remember it. Yeah,
It felt different, right? It felt different. Like every event, I always really like because it's not a real it's almost an unreal world, like you're in a space with people, like-minded people. Everybody who comes to those events, they like the workouts, which is a really fantastic place to be because that's not how a normal class is. A normal class, you have people who really like you as an instructor, but the other somebody is sitting next to them, and they actually hope that the other person showed up.
Yes.
The other instructor, because they like them a little bit better. There are people who are doing the workouts because they feel that they have to. Or they think it's important to do it. But in those moments of a Les Mills event, all these people want to do that workout, which comes with a really great vibe. But it feels that 2022, I've done 2 big events that year, and it just felt amplified. People were happy to be back. They've waited for a long time to be back in a situation like that. It just felt different, right? How was it for you?
Coming from the body bike side of things, where we supplied the bikes for the event, I stood at the back of the room when people ran in to get on the bikes for that first event when the doors opened, and just this is probably going to sound weird when I say this, but once those doors opened, the energy that came into the room was phenomenal. When you guys got up on stage and put your mics on and you started talking, the energy level again rose. When the guys, the AV guys down the back hit play and the music started, I'm getting goosebumps now just reminiscing on what it was. The energy was phenomenal. Now, I've been to a lot over the last 20 years, been to a lot of events, a lot of big events, a lot of the quarterly workshops, whether they're mega workshops or whether they're just regional workshops. Over in Les Mills Live in Singapore back in 2017 or 2018, whenever that one was as well. They're huge events, massive energy in the room. It was phenomenal to see the smile on people's faces again. That you knew that the industry needed it, the instructors needed that reinvigoration that they'd missed for a couple of years. Talking to instructors still about it. There's still stuff that's thrown around on social media. It was August. Here we are recording this in January, and that's still being spoken about. They're starting to plan already what's happening for this year, which I'm not going to allude to, but I've heard some things that are going to be amazing here in Australia that are going to blow people's minds as well. So nice.
That's the beauty of group fitness. I think it's really powerful to physically have people move in the same direction. Like you're. I don't want to get too deep about it. It almost, I don't know. Like how I see it is, at those moments, people going through a similar experience with similar emotions, actually moving in the same direction. And I think that's really powerful. I don't think that happens often in daily life. Like we might have different views on things. We have different opinions, and that's totally fine. That's absolutely that's a beautiful thing of the world as well. There's also a negative part where people actually go against each other, fight with each other. What's happening in the world is not always so beautiful, the situation in Ukraine is terrible now, and in so many other places in the world, people are really struggling. But during those moments, whether that's in your own group fitness class, in your local gym, in Maasluis in the Netherlands at the school that I grew up in at, or amplified in a Les Mills life experience, I think that's the powerful thing. Having people going through a similar experience, experiencing similar emotions, and actually physically moving in the same direction. It's quite powerful.
Has there been an event for you that is the most memorable, something that really stands out above anything else, any other event that you've been at?
We do, and I still say we because I still feel a strong connection to the Dutch team, where my roots lay. I think the HCD group, where some of your friends and colleagues work as well. If you ever have the chance to get to a mega quarterly, it's one of the best experience. It's this old monastery with small corridors, but they turn it into an event. So other events are held there as well. But that whole monastery is ours. It's decorated in Les Mills style. So everywhere you look, there's stuff happening, and they come up with a theme every year. So sometimes it's, I don't know, fairy tales. Sometimes it's color or movie stars or Hollywood, whatever. And that whole venue is decorated in that place. And I don't know, like the Dutch throw some really, really good parties. No, I think there's so many events. I loved the Mega Quarterly this year. I loved Melbourne. There's one that's sticking out. It's often the stuff that sticks out is the connections that I've had over that. It's not usually there's a couple of classes that I like. I taught a class with my best friend back home in Holland. Like that one was like in the top 5 of my classes ever. Like I have so many good. It was the trip class of that event that we taught, and it was 9 o'clock, and people were just starting in, and we thought like, okay, maybe just don't go 100%. You know, like people need to wake up. Like I hate if people say, are you ready to move? And there's a small, I can't hear you. And you're sort of starting to drag answers out of them. I like it either happens or it doesn't happen. But if you're dragging it out, it's so. But at the first question, like people were so into it. So there's a couple of questions. I know that I'm getting excited. I'm starting to ramble. There's a couple of classes that are really highlighted and framed in my head. That's one of them. But I often remember events based off the connections that I've had with members, or often with the trainer team as well. I had some really good chats with the women working at the office at LMAP. That's something that I remember. One of them, I can't remember her name, but she was Greek or had Greek heritage and told me about good Greek food in Melbourne. It's those small things that really. I had some good conversations at the after party with some of the trainers. It's those things that I remember most.
No, that's brilliant. Back on the Holland thing, I'm going to reach out to Kim and Ufa. I want to head over there. One, I want to see the big body bike factory as well.
In Denmark.
There and have a look around.
Go during the Mega Quarterly.
I'll find out when it is, and I'll try and tee it up. If not this year, next year.
You should. Yeah, they throw really good events.
This is the Group X podcast.
Awesome. Yeah. So what does the future hold for you? You know, I know you don't have a crystal ball. No one has a crystal ball, but are there...
Well, actually, look at this way.
That's why this conversation has run so well, because you've got your crystal ball.
I'm just reading what it says here. What holds the future? I don't know. And for the first time in my life, I'm okay with that.
That's refreshing.
I'm in a really...
Very refreshing.
Happy...
That's very refreshing. To be in that.
Yeah, I've always been really ambitious. Like I've been like the child in the family that always wanted to explore if I compare myself to my brothers and sisters, they are very happy in the town that they grew up in, with the people that they knew from primary school. And I was always the odd one out. Like I wanted to explore different cultures. I've never done until I started traveling for Les Mills. But then I knew that like that's what I lived in Japan. I'm living here now, and I was always really ambitious. Not that I've set my goals. I want to be an employee at Les Mills International, but it always evolved. I got to a certain stage, and then I saw the next step, and then I saw the next step. I'm in a good place now. I really like creating, being a little bit more creative. I help out with some of the programs that are being developed now. I really like my production role, creating content rather than just presenting it.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know if we stay in New Zealand, but at this stage we said at least the plan is to stay here for at least 5 years, because then my 2 little girls can have a Kiwi passport, which I would really like.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
How old are your daughters, if you don't mind me asking?
The oldest one, Izzy, is 3, just turned 3, and the youngest, Millie, is just turned 1.
Beautiful ages too, man. Beautiful ages. Yeah.
Challenging
yeah.
ages, especially a 3-year-old. Like,
Yes.
no, but yeah, it's such New Zealand. It's such a nice country to let the girls grow up in. It's beautiful here. It's
No, I love that. Love that. Thank you for sharing too.
What does your future hold? What are your plans, except working on that studio, because that looks pretty awesome.
My plans here, so day job, body bike. I don't think I'm leaving body bike anytime soon. I think I'll be here for quite some time.
It's a nice company.
Mate, it's probably the best company I've worked for, and that's not saying that the companies I've worked for before have been bad. They just continue to get better every time I've stepped up in my life and in my career. Body bike.
What makes the difference?
I'm getting older. I'm getting wiser. My skill set is every time I've gone through. Good question, by the way. I really like that.
Because this is related to you. That answer that you're giving is related to you, but not. Why do you say that body bike is the best?
I've got a skill set that I've been able to use and I've been able to learn from being at Body Bike that I either didn't have before or didn't know that I had before. I've been given the opportunity to step up. And I've really enjoyed that. Really learned a lot about myself in the last 5 years. Being also with the podcast as well. With this, what we're doing here, I always had an inkling that I wanted to do something more. What that is, I never knew. You know, I started this at the beginning of last year, and it's evolved so much from the first ever episode that I recorded, which was atrocious, but still good because it was taking a step in the right direction. I see the two of those worlds working alongside each other for quite some time. You know, I'm 47 this year and don't see myself stopping doing what I'm doing. I haven't taught in the last 5. I'm hoping that I'm about to go in for another hip replacement on the 7th of Feb. So I'm hoping that once that's done and I put the sticks down and I can walk properly, that I'll be able to get back into training because I haven't been able to train properly in the last 5 years.
Okay.
So
that must have been difficult for you as well.
It's been a challenge. It's been a very big challenge to dealing with the pain. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that deal with debilitating pain frequently, can really control your mind and control what's going on in your life. And when I got that telephone call last week to say, hey, you know, 7th of February, you're in. There was emotions that came through my body that made me go, wow, this is the beginning of something new. This is the next chapter. You know, I'm looking forward so much to the end of March where I can actually get on the bike again. I can go and train. I can.
There's light at the end of the
100%. You know, light on the end of that. That I don't need to pick up the painkillers anymore. I can leave them over there and just go. Yes, this is. You know, I've got a 7-year-old. I want to chase her. You know, I want to be able to walk my dogs. I want to be able to do certain things where I'm not held back. You know, I want to be able to get out there. So all of that put together, I think is the direction for me is only going to get better. What I'm doing, you know, the podcast, I'm looking to take this down a group exercise management side of things. So talking to group X managers to give them the tools and the power to do a better job than what they're currently doing or help them improve what they're currently doing, as well as still give instructors the skill set to do better and be better as well by these conversations. And if that can help people do that, then I'm ticking boxes for me, but I think also for the industry as well. You know, getting group exercise spoken about more often and getting the attention that it deserves. Because currently I feel here in Australia, it's probably not where I believe it should be. You know, I think it needs to be a little bit more from the owners of gyms and from managers of gyms to realize the full power that group exercise really does have and the retention tool that it is, not just that cost center that it is. You know, there's that line, it's, you know, it cost me that much money, but the amount of people you're servicing, the amount of retention that's happening because of that cost center.
Yeah. Yeah, and the value you're adding in people's life just by letting them go to a class, like yeah. But it's hard to express that in a number.
Yeah. So hard. So hard. But yeah, that's for me. That's where I think that I'll stay. I'll stay with Body Bike doing what I love here. The first thing I ever did when I walked into a gym was get on a bike and ride, and to be going through that journey of the fitness industry to now GM of Body Bike here in Australia. It's where my roots are. That get on a bike and pedal and go nowhere. I just love the loud music behind me and that intensity of the workout and that feeling you get when you get off the bike and you're dribbling with sweat and trying not to trip over, or your legs are all wobbly.
Duck walk because of the cleats underneath.
But no, that's where I think is for me. That's where I think
nice.
Yeah. Hey, there's one last question that I'd love to ask you. Yeah. Is there anything in the industry that you think needs to change?
Yes. Do you have another hour?
But I have all the time in the world. We'll turn this into part 2.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think, where should I start? I think the fitness industry in general can be really toxic because I think the examples you see in videos, and I consider myself part of that too, is you see the exceptions, the people who are I don't know, gifted with good genes or have the means to work out 6 hours a day, people with money to just change whatever they don't like about themselves, and you see these examples, and it's so and I think these are the exceptions, but because through social media and media in general, they are shown to you so often that it almost becomes that they become the standard. If you have 100,000 people, I don't know how many people are in New Zealand, or sorry, in Australia. If you have 100,000 men in New Zealand with a six-pack, with a good physique, they are the exception because like we have 5 million people in New Zealand. I don't even think we get to. The numbers don't matter. But if I follow 5,000 of these people, it seems that everybody in the world has a six-pack, And then I can think like, hey, I'm wrong. No, I'm the standard. They are the exception. It just because I see them so often, it looks like they are the standard. I think that should change. I love that. The fitness industry in general is shifting to a more diverse body type, although that's also difficult in this industry because the people who are good at what they do, trainers, like if we look at Les Mills trainers, they are often passionate for sport, so it's likely that they exercise a lot, so it's likely that they look like they exercise a lot. So I see the difficulty there, but I think awareness in marketing, in I don't know, online shopping stuff. You see a range now, and I think that's really good. And I love that to develop to the point where we still promote health. Because I also think you can cross that line too far.
I agree.
But I hope that more people start to feel positive about themselves and about the journey and about exercise. So I think, on top of my head, that's the main thing that I would like to see evolving and continue to evolve. Is there something else that pops in my mind? I just think inclusivity, like it can be quite a harsh world, especially when you head to the top of any company. There's people with ambition, people who want to, and I all get it. I just, inclusivity, being kind to one another, that stuff. And I think we're making good progressions towards all those things. I just would love it to evolve and that it.
I agree. I believe there is still a place for someone that looks the part, that is to motivate, so you aspire to be. But I also believe that we need it to be realistic. Yep. And I think that's what you were touching on then as well, is the people that we're seeing on social media, the people that we're seeing that we're following. Yes, at the moment, they most, if not all, are looking like the ideal. Oh, yes, that's fantastic. But as you're saying, it's almost unrealistic in a way that that's not what the entire world looks like. The entire world does not look like that. We would love to look like that, and I think that helps us on the journey to get there. But it's okay for social media to show us the average person. And there's not so much the struggle, but how the journey of that average person went from what they are to where they're going, you know, and sharing that journey. I think that's where social media needs to flip a little bit to get more of the inclusivity, as we're saying, you know, the diversity.
And I think that's in the messages, Tony, as well. Like all these get fit in 6 weeks, learn how to handstand in 30 days. All those things are very unrealistic, and the only thing that we set people up to, if we keep stay on that path, is for people to feel really bad about themselves. In the end, they don't achieve their results, and is that because they didn't work hard enough? Is that because they didn't want it hard enough? Because that's sort of the message that we're told as well. We can achieve everything if we just work hard enough. You know, like that American dream that's still quite present in the rest of the world as well. And I don't think that's true. A lot of stuff in life is also based on chance. If Jackie Mills wasn't my program coach for that first time that I went to New Zealand, I don't know if we would have had this conversation. I don't know if I would have been in the same position. If it would have been any other program coach, likely not, because they don't have the authority to offer somebody a job. You know, there could have been that I had to work with a program coach who didn't like my personality or didn't like me. And I had zero influence in Jackie becoming the program coach. That was completely out of my hands. She could have been sick that week when I arrived. So messaging and realistic messaging. It's great to promote fit and ripped bodies. But it needs to be honest. These people have worked their whole life to get to a certain shape. They are genetically gifted. And that doesn't mean that it's unachievable. It's just not achievable in 6 weeks. Or without crash dieting or without whatever. What would you like to change?
Have you got an hour?
Maybe that becomes part 3 then.
No, but what I'd like to change is what I'm doing this for. To have the image or the attention of group exercise lifted in our industry. We're part of the industry, so we see the power that it has. But my aim and what I want to see change in the industry is the leaders in the industry, or the so-called leaders in the industry, give group exercise more attention. Let's look at it more than the cost center, more than that. You know, look at what it can really do. You know, not just that's done over there. You know, I really want the image to change for group exercise, and that's part of the reason this all started for me was to do my bit. I wasn't able to teach anymore because of the pain that I was in this time. I could do something different. You know, and the conversations that I'm having with people, I know are making an impact. It's never been about, as I said in one of the posts I did recently on social media, this podcast was never about downloads and how many people I could get to listen. It was has just reaffirmed for me that people are listening. You know, it's great that people are engaging in what I'm trying to do, and the more people I can chat to, the better. You know, I started with just being the trainer and presenter team from Australia, and I've now reached out to some big names, yourself included. There's people that are out there doing stuff on an international level that is so nice that I'm able to chat to, understand you, where you've come from, your journey, and everything that goes on. And that to me is part of the whole thing for me, what needs to change and what.
So cool that you've actioned that on that plan, you know, like...
Thank you.
Could have stayed at a plan. Good on you for actioning it.
I'll be honest and say there's a very good friend of mine, he knows who he is, who gave me the push. I'd been talking to him about this for a while, and turned around and he said to me, just do it. Doesn't matter if the first one you do is doesn't matter if the first one you do is crap. Start. Just make a start, you know.
Yeah,
It was, and he knows who he is, and I've got a lot of respect and a lot of time for him, and I thank him a lot for saying, Tony, just do it. But
that's so nice. Nice of him,
Yeah.
and good on you for
Thank you.
doing that, eh? Following up on his advice.
Thank you. Bas, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for, chatting to me for almost an hour and a half of your day and sharing your stories
very
with us,
welcome.
mate. I've greatly
It has been a long time coming. We've been talking about this before the summer break. Oh, well, Christmas break,
It
basically.
started just before Les Mills Live. I reached out before.
Yeah. So if the next one takes again 6
months.
months, see you in 2024. Yeah.
No, thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure to chat to you.
Thanks again for the invite.